All right, welcome into a Plastic Posse Podcast special interview segment. Today we are joined by three good friends to talk about a new modeling organization called Modelers Without Borders. So today we have with us, first of all, from the posse, we have TJ. How you doing, TJ?
Oh, not too bad.
And also JB. How you doing, John?
Doing great. I'm looking forward to this.
And then we also have special guests. First of all, Mr. Tim Holland. How are you, Tim?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Good friend, Rob Booth. How are you, Rob?
Howdy. Always great here.
And good friend as well, Stan Spooner. How you doing, Stan?
Good, gents. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, the purpose of getting together is you guys have been instrumental in starting a new organization, and a lot of people have a lot of questions. So let's have a conversation and see if we can kind of unravel some of those mysteries. John, let me kick it over to you and let's get going.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think I'll start off with Tim on this one, and feel free, everybody can chip in. And this is really just a basic question to start off our listeners with learning about MWB. Tell us, what is MWB?
Well, it's an organization established to help educate modelers, bring industry and modelers together, as well as other potential partners, whether it's vendors, local clubs, you name it, but bring us all together and do it in a way that is genre agnostic. We want everybody. If you're building a small version of a big thing, we want you in this tent. That's really what it was all about.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Tim. That was really insightful. I'd love to expand on the vision for MWB. I'd ask Rob to, chime in. What's the vision of MWB? How, again, the impetus of that vision, and what are you looking to achieve with it?
I think we all kind of had the idea of a truly worldwide international scale modeling community that would, again, bridge all those different scale modeling genres and focus on respect, community, and the shared passion for our craft. We don't feel like we're really getting that from some of the organizations that are out there right now. And in analyzing stuff that we see on social media and interactions with people at shows, we think that's something that's going to be warmly received.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, you know enough about us to know that we definitely value inclusion, and I'm really excited to hear that vision. Stan, maybe you can talk about, I know you've got a lot of connections in the industry and everything, and so we're kind of talking about modelers and genres and being genre specific, but how do you think that ties into modeling companies and the organizations that support the hobby?
Well, I think the goal of MWB, besides the stated ones that Rob and Tim just sort of reviewed, I mean, inclusivity is a wonderful thing. And the reality is that was not the general mindset of the club that shall not be named. But, there are other issues. We all know them that sort of got the conversations going. And one of them was, if we're going to reach out to modelers en masse, give them a place to commune, to be encouraged, to learn, to grow, and so on. These are people, whether it be the occasional person that picks up something at 40% off at Hobby Lobby, or the guy that just goes stupid crazy pressing the button at Hobby Easy, and then, 3 weeks later, it shows up on his table and he's going, what did I do? And then there's everything in between. We need to be able to take the desires, the needs for all of these different types of people and connect them with the people that make and create all the things that all these different people love to build. My part of this organization is to try to make that happen as much as possible. But it's a numbers game. It's really, really simple. It's about, you can either stay with the existing national structure and be one of maybe 5,000 people that then dwells down to 500 people that shows up to a national convention. And then you have access to whoever happens to show up. Or we can create an environment where manufacturers have an opportunity to get feedback from, engage with, whether it be digitally or whether it be through live internet forums or whether it be through conventions or whether it be through contests, do the numbers. We're in a country of 320 some odd million people. Yeah, I cannot believe that there's only 5,000 modelers in this country. There's got to be at least 500,000 people that pick up something small that is an interpretation of something big, to Tim's point, and puts it together. So there's a lot of other things that will come out of this club, this association, a lot of wonderful things that'll help you grow in your talents and in your knowledge and skills and relationships. I think this is one of the most amazing opportunities we have to connect vendors, manufacturers, dealers en masse on a not only massive North American scale, but a global scale as this thing continues to kick up and get going on that level. So it may sound ambitious, but it really is just numbers. It's simple math. I've had one conversation with a person who is directly connected with one of these companies that we all know, and he's going, "Yeah, man, numbers are simple. I get this. Get me the details and let me figure this out, and let's keep talking." So yeah, it's a really easy conversation to have.
You kind of briefly touched on it, and I'm just going to go ahead. The organization that shall not be named, I'm going to go ahead and name. It's IPMS. And the question is, how does MWB compare to IPMS? Because I know that is the question that especially anyone in the United States that's involved in IPMS.
Rob's raising his hand, but I'll follow. So Rob, you go ahead.
Well, I'll just preface this by saying anybody that's probably listening to this knows who I am and where I've come from. I was on the executive board at IPMS this time last year, and I'm not now. One of the reasons that I left is because I felt like I wasn't able to represent the people who put me there. The general thinking was, you're there to do a job and run the organization. You're not necessarily supposed to listen to what the membership has to say about how things are run. And I felt like I couldn't do that to the people that put me there. So I resigned. And I would say 48 hours maybe after that occurred, I was reached out to by people who were putting this organization together and said, "We have something that we think you might be interested in." And I listened and didn't hesitate to say, "I'm all in. That's exactly what I'm looking for out of an organization about scale modeling." I have seen some small changes in IPMS maybe in the last year or two. And there's been some talk about reaching out to other genres and to the casual hobbyist and trying to bring them into IPMS and give them things that interest them. And they're not very welcoming to hobbyists that aren't serious about historical and mostly military subject matter. And at that, it's weighted heavily towards aircraft. So they focus their environment and all that they do, mainly the national convention and the folks that attend that, they cater to that segment of the hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. They've clearly got their eye on what they perceive as the ball, and it works very well for them. The annual convention is a great social event. We've all been there. We've had great times. I can't remember one that I didn't have a great time at. But the elephant in the room is the contest. The National Contest Committee of IPMS touts the contest as the Olympics of scale modeling. We're all watching the Olympics right now, and I mean, those are the greatest athletes in the world. And it's amazing to watch what they do. But a model in and of itself, sitting on a table, can't compete like that. What's really being evaluated when you're in a contest setting like that is the skills and everything that goes into that model by the person who built it and who created it. And so when you're judging a model, that makes it intensely personal to the person whose work is being done. That group that runs that part of the organization is a self-appointed group. They're averse to change, and they've clearly shown that they don't hesitate to bend or disregard ethical standards or rules to look after their own. That being that group of serious modelers or those who think that they're serious modelers enough to compete at the Olympics of scale modeling to that end. What I've also learned is that they are very dismissive and disrespectful to anyone who dares to call them out on such things. And I'll just leave it at that.
No, I think Rob is a gentleman. I mean, let's face it. I moved to Texas and I meet this guy who constantly takes the high road. And that was as far off the curb as he's ever gone. So kudos to you, big guy. I tend to take a little more, sarcastic tone to this whole thing. I think the contest is obviously a major stumbling point, but it is only something that is the results of the larger symptom, which is this amazingly self-appointed importance that the leadership, old guard leadership, we'll call it that, will leave us room for the new guard if that ever happens. But the old guard leadership has appointed themselves to be. So you've got, a national marketplace of maybe 500,000 people. You have a club that is self-determined to be only for serious modelers. You have a whopping 5,000 plus people in there. Of that, you've got maybe 500 or 600 people that show up to a convention, and then you declare yourself to be the best of the best. I respectfully and radically disagree. Several of us here on this little gathering have had the privilege of being published globally for years and years now, and that opens us up to an experience of being connected with modelers that as a global presence, a global audience, are far superior to, I can guarantee you they're far superior to anything I can generate as far as the quality of a model goes, but they are true artists, truly people that elevate every corner of that effort. And you look at it and you're going, the heart, the intent, the storytelling just cannot be measured on something like this. And there's so much more out there. And our goal here at Modelers Without Borders is to step beyond this petty existence of what we've, quite honestly, it's not only what we've been exposed to, but it really functionally is about all that we have had available to us, except for the last year or two. If it weren't for IPMS, what were you going to go do in the way of a gathering? So what changed about a year or two ago? Well, we all went through the BS, the continuing BS that culminated out of the judging issues, and then how that, more than that, it's even how it was dealt with after the San Antonio Nationals. So you go through all of that, the dismissive nature and non-desire to do anything better for not only the people who are your members, but gain a larger audience that would all benefit from competition in a community that raises everybody up instead of tears them down, was just amazing. And all of a sudden, let's face it, Modelers Without Borders is a follow-on. There are other people who said, screw it, I'm just going to do this myself. I'm going to create a contest that is not affiliated with IPMS. I'm going to create a contest that works in a system that allows everybody's work to be judged against itself and through, basic draft criteria that makes sense, and that we give them feedback so that at the end of the day, they not only see things that they can improve, but are encouraged with what they're doing and try to come back the next time with something even better. We lift them up, we grow the community, and Modelers Without Borders, the only difference here is, whereas some of the other efforts are individual shows that have taken this upon themselves to develop this structure and how things are judged and reach out to their local community, our goal is to do it nationally and internationally. Now, the contests and all of that type of stuff will be folded in through the process naturally as time goes on. But man, at the core of Modelers Without Borders, our intention is to create a larger community, not put any obstacles in the way of people, whether they like to build Gundam or Warhammer or battle figures or airplanes or armor or whatever. There's no barrier between all of this, and give them a place to and a community to enjoy it and to grow. And yeah, that's what we're about.
Go ahead, Rob. You had something to say?
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit and maybe apologize to the broader membership of IPMS. I have, stepped back from all of that, and I don't hold any malice at all with the executive board that I was on. They're all good people. They're friends of mine, and they're all doing their best to run an organization. And really, and again, the national convention is always a great affair, and it seems to always be that way right up until the last day when you start introducing the contest portion of the event. And again, all those things about putting a scale model in a judged environment about that make it so personal. I just think that there's an opportunity to do a much better job with that than the way that is done. It is in a lot of ways, as I said, it's dismissive and disrespectful to. I count myself as an average modeler. I'm certainly not the same league as most of you on this call with the quality of the models that I put out, but I try to get better with every model that I build. The structure that's set up there doesn't allow for you to get any sort of feedback on, let's say you're in a category of 25 models on the table. If you're not first, second, or third, you get no feedback whatsoever about where you may have stood in the rankings of that. Was I fourth or was I 25th? Probably somewhere in between there. But I leave that environment wondering what it is that I did or didn't do with that particular piece that kept me out of some sort of ranking of all of this. And I think that's an issue that we're trying to hit head on with this new organization, is to make it more friendly to people, to mentor them and to coach them and to show them through the exhibition process where they are with their modeling in relation to the rest of the hobby. We've got some admitted rock stars in the hobby that produce absolute works of art. And those guys are all, and ladies, are all over the world. We hope to learn from them and have them help us to take everyone from beginning modelers to more experienced and advanced modelers and be able to improve their skills and provide some feedback to them on things they did, not only things that they may have missed on the model, but more importantly, the things that they did well, so that they can continue to work on that part of their skills and come up with models that are more appealing to them and more appealing in that kind of a setting. That's just the contest or the exhibition or juried exhibition or whatever you want to call that segment of what we would have as an event. That, in my opinion, is secondary to everything else that goes on at a gathering of hobbyists. The best part of those conventions are getting to see you guys in person, sitting around, having a beer, talking shop, talking about techniques and looking at each other's models. That's, to me, what that gathering is all about. Anything that happens in a contest or a juried exhibition or whatever it might be is secondary to the interaction with our other modelers. I think that's one of our long-term goals, and I'm sure we'll get to this in a minute, but I think that one of the most important things we want to do is provide an environment where people can get together and establish new and grow existing relationships that they have with other modelers from around the world. Provide online opportunities, that sort of thing. That's one of the goals. Keeping it all in a positive environment.
Tim, I'm interested in kind of your take on this too. You know, we've heard a lot about, from a benchmarking perspective, you know, a lot of maybe kind of a restrictive approach and ways that I think that we can do better. But, you know, Stan and Rob have been pretty eloquent about talking about that. What's your take on kind of some of these points that they've made?
Well, it's going to be difficult for me to say it better than they did, frankly. When I came into this organization, it was right after Rob left IPMS, and it was because he left that I stepped away, because at the time I was trying to help Rob with some things he was trying to do, and I got that phone call shortly after Rob joined. Said, "Yeah, I'm totally in." And some of the things that I mean, at the end of the day, I have a hard time. I've judged 1, 2, 3 with IPMS. I've judged gold, silver, bronze, and open systems with other clubs. And I've watched AMPS, watched the judging there. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a place for 1, 2, 3. I really don't. Not in this hobby. One, it's a hobby. It's something we do for fun. It's something we do to make us feel good that we've done. You know, we occupy our minds and our hands and try to achieve something and make some small version of a big thing. And at the end of the day, that's what I want to see us celebrate as fellow modelers. The fact that we've actually created those. I want to see those things when I go to a show. I'm less interested in the kind of hardware that, you know, the handful of top-notch modelers that show up are going to win. Because let's face it, in the genres that I build in, if I see certain guys show up at a show, I know I am absolutely not going to win anything. Or, you know, it's the old, well, now I'm now competing for second place, or I'm now competing for third place, or I'm out. It can be very disheartening. It's I can see why some modelers would say, I don't get it. And because it's hard to celebrate when everybody's focused on who's getting first, who's getting second, and who's getting third. And then there's the politics, you know, and that's one of the things that we have made a cornerstone to our operating principles is integrity, transparency, and just dealing with things. If something negative happens, then as a leader, I have to deal with it, full stop. And it's got to be done quickly, and we got to move on. And if the membership writ large says, "Hey, Tim, you didn't quite respond strong enough," then I'm here to say, okay, how much stronger do I need to respond? You know, it's have a conversation. I'm all ears. I do read the Facebook posts. So when folks ask questions and throw things up there, I in some cases I answer them when I can. If I can't answer them, I'll give them a vague, you know, watch this space, you know, we'll get back to you because we're still working on it. So I try to be transparent. And that was the reason why I accepted the position when I unfortunately didn't show up for the meeting when these guys decided to, 1, nominate me, and then 2, vote me in. So I accept the honor, but
you volunteered.
Yeah, I was voluntold that I was gonna have this job.
Don't worry, Tim. That's happened to me too, and that's why I'm the president of my AMPS chapter. Mm-hmm. I wasn't there that day.
Works that way.
Yep, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that transparency, Tim. And, you know, you're just getting off the ground. There's, you know, everything takes time. I know y'all are trying to move fast. And what you're essentially doing is eating an elephant. I love this phrase. Use it at work all the time. You know, in order to eat an elephant, you got to take bite by bite. So if y'all could just talk about what are those bites you're taking over the next couple months, 6 months, a year? What can people expect to see to bring members in, and what does that growth look like? And also a tag to this question is, where are you looking for help?
I'll start with the membership question, right? Because we see this some on the whether it's Facebook or guys when they shoot a note to me on the website. Frankly, where we stand right now, if you build small versions of bigger things, then you're part of Modelers Without Borders. Full stop. Now, what's the value statement that goes with that? When somebody says, well, now I'm part of they wake up tomorrow and they go and they listen to the podcast and they say, oh, gee whiz, I'm a member of MWB. Well, what does that mean? It just means that we expect them to embrace the principles that we have and respect all modelers of all genres, welcome them in and share what they build, share what they make, and talk about it and try to learn things. That's membership. Now, as we move forward, we may We may create a model where, an operating model where we ask people that, hey, if you donate to this cause financially, X number of dollars, and it would be very small amounts, then you'll get the following in return. We may get to that point. Those are the kind of things we're working on in the near term, is how do we do those kind of things? So, there's some administrative things we've got to take care of, some IT things, that kind of stuff to be able to enable those kind of capabilities. But until then, relish in the fact that we're going to do something. And in the meantime, we want to share models and talk about all the different genres that are out there. What was the other part of your question? I think I answered the first part, but not the second part.
Yeah, it was just around, as you look to grow, scale, are you looking for help? Can people join and contribute?
At this point, as we publish our progress and things in terms of decisions we've made, and when we make a decision, that we publish, that's a draft decision. We think we've got it figured out, but we fully admit that we may not be the experts. We're just a bunch of smart modelers that are trying the best we can. And when I say smart, we're just guys that have sat around the table virtually and said, how do we think we want to do this? What are the things we don't want to do? And what are the things we do want to do? And we put things together. Well, as we publish those, I want feedback. I want to hear if there's something right, wrong, or close enough in whatever it is we publish. And that's the initial help that we're looking for. And we may actually go out and ask for labor. We may say, hey, we've got this particular role that we would like a modeler to fill. That's voluntary. If there's roles that we think are need to be paid, then we'll figure out a way to do that. And we may decide that those are not necessarily modelers, but services we buy, just because it makes more sense to do that. So that's how we're looking for help right now, is really just communicate with us and tell us where you'd like to see us improve what we're doing.
I think that one of our founding things that we talk about in our meetings is we're asking everybody involved, how can we help? We're asking that of the manufacturers. We're asking that of individual modelers, and that's a big part of our purpose for being is how can we help you? How can we help you enjoy the hobby more? How can we help you become a better modeler and improve your skills? How can we help you grow your model-related relationships with other people? And so on our Facebook page, and I think there's a way to respond on the website as well. Those of you who have visited both the Facebook page and the website, tell us what you want. I used to hear an awful lot about things that weren't being done within the other organization that I was trying to help with, and met with lots of resistance, but the needs and the desires were still there. So make those things known. What is it that you want out of this organization? What can we do to help you grow?
Yeah, one of the things I want to try to get the message out there about is, you're right, JB, it's an elephant. We've taken on a very large task. I want everyone to understand that listens to this podcast that although we first sort of went public the last day of this year's NATS, these guys have been eating away at this pachyderm for over a year with hundreds and hundreds of hours of meetings. There are so many documents that are being generated that structure the way we operate and not only generally function as a 501c3, which we are, correct, Tim? We're an official 501c3.
Yes, we are.
All that legally is done. We're waiting for some IRS final conclusion documentation and so on. So there's a whole, it's not a business, but there's the old nonprofit designation, and we're there. That's good. All the things that then have to be done to create an entity that can support shows on a regional or a national level or an international level. Those are next steps that are already being discussed, and those efforts are lined up in the queue of things to get done. But again, hundreds of hours have been spent on what type of contest, what type of juror competition are we going to best recommend represents the ethics and the story of what it is that we want to try to create. I think it's important that people understand that as these things get developed, like Tim was saying, we're going to get them out there. We're going to get them out there for people to discuss. This is not just some nebulous entity that is media driven, and we're out here as a internet safe haven for those who just want to chime in and be a part of another group on Facebook. This is going someplace, and it will become quickly substantive and tangible. And we're all working toward that as we reveal new components to this group. Realize that, again, there's hundreds of hours behind this to get it to that point. And we are not going to stop until we create opportunities for these communities to meet face to face and to have those times exactly like Rob was talking about. But Modelers Without Borders, where I could sit down with, some guy that just started snapping together Gundam and another guy that does figure painting on flats and have commonality and fun and engage and lift each other's up and then in an environment where we all get to put our stuff out there and have it looked at and get feedback on it and grow from there. So it's happening. This isn't going to stay nebulous. Not that it is nebulous now, but it's not intended to be nebulous. It's going to be tangible real quick.
Yeah. And as we can answer questions, we absolutely will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I keep, as Stan and Rob both know, I push and I'm looking for where have we made a decision so that we can share that with the modelers that are out there. I want to add that, why should somebody be a part of this is in addition to just being different, is that if you want to be part of something that wants to share and wants to celebrate modeling, then that would be the basic reason to join us. It's not about juried exhibitions. It's about sharing your models in an exhibition, face-to-face opportunity when we can, but at every opportunity that we can, not just necessarily face-to-face.
Yep.
So I'll put you guys on the spot a little bit and ask a question.
Shoot, man.
One of the things, since we've talked a lot about IPMS, one of the things that has consistently been noticed by myself and other people is they don't have a good strategy for outreach. Case in point, they have a social media manager who I've never seen post anything on social media for the NATS that just happened. Not a single post from the IPMS on any social media platform. But you have a community like, I'm going to choose Reddit because I like Reddit. It's one of my favorite social media adjacent websites. They have
I've seen your posts there.
Right. I've seen yours too. They have a modeling subreddit and it's in the top 1% of size on a platform with 500 million active users.
Yes. There's
over 250,000 members in the Model Makers subreddit. And that's not the only subreddit about making models. It's just the largest one.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, whenever the NATS was, someone was making a post of pictures from the models and multiple people are like, this is happening in my town. I live in Madison. I had no idea this was going. This is a model maker, someone who builds models, is active on modeling social media, had no idea the modeling Olympics was happening down the street from their house.
Yeah.
So with those problems well documented, and it's not just IPMS, they're not the only modeling organization that has that problem. How are you guys going to handle outreach to communities and people that maybe aren't on Facebook? Because let's face it, most people on Facebook are our age. And when I say our age, I mean me, early 40s, to you guys who are a little bit older than me.
Antique.
Not too much.
Antique. Yeah.
But like the young kid, my kids don't use Facebook. Even if I really let them, which I don't really, but I have a high schooler. She's not interested in Facebook. They don't care. Right. So do you have a strategy for finding those people and bringing them into the fold? Because they don't know that organizations are out there because no one's told them that unless they grew up with a parent that was an IPMS member.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a fair question. I think Rob, let me jump in here and then I'll turn it over to you, because when we were talking about the best use of our efforts and our goals moving forward, one of the things that we want to do once we get the financial underpinning that we're looking for is to bring people on board that do exactly that, TJ, that reach out beyond the expected, which is a website as it currently exists, and Facebook, which the reality is, yes, we all live on Facebook as it relates to modeling, but there are so many other platforms out there, social media, and like you said, social media adjacent. Now, I will freely admit, I've never gone to Reddit before. So now I guess what Stan's doing tomorrow is I want to try to see what's going on there. But there are people out there that we can bring in, that we can underwrite financially, that will say, okay, guys, this is the way we're going to get the word out. All we can do is get the word out, but get the word out on every single platform that we can and try to draw in as many cross-market opportunities as we can. Case in point, you're on Reddit. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, I'm sure you're on other things. If we can start generating interest and conversations across platform, that's going to reach as many people as we possibly can. I have a nephew that is in his early 30s that I taught him just, I think we were on a family get together up in Lake Tahoe years and years and years and years ago. And it was a little guy. I helped him build a quarter scale Tiger One. Right, to me is, and kid was just fascinated with it. I brought a little portable compressor and so on, and he was hooked. I love it. It's like, come on, Uncle Stan, everyone's doing it. First one's for free. Life goes on. He gets married. He has kids. Typical path, takes a dip. Life stabilizes out. He's building again. He's sending me pictures. And I said, hey, are you on Facebook? Well, I knew that, of course. I had his personal page. But I said, join this group. Watch the people that are posting in here. You post in here. You're getting a lot of great feedback and stuff. And sure enough, boom, he is on fire. And he loves that. He loves the community. There's communities, not just on Facebook. We're going to find them. We're going to hire the right people. Tim, fair enough to say. When like I said, the financial underpinnings are there. And whereas TJ, no one IPMS has bothered to post a thing, this will be the inverse of that.
Absolutely.
Probably data reach out overload. And that's the goal, is to keep it up and to grow it beyond the borders of North America. This is Australia, Canada, Europe, Asia. We've already had talks and getting people engaged in all of these areas. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be amazing to watch how this grows.
Well, I was just going to say, TJ, in fairness to the IPMS guys, they choose to leave that to the convention committee for that particular year to advertise and get out there on social media and whatever other channels they can get to promote the convention. And I got to say, in all fairness to Jeff and his crew, they did a pretty good job of that on the channels that they had available to them. The 2024 convention page was always being updated. That was information central about the convention itself. Now, to your point, there was nothing else out there besides that. If you didn't know where to go to look for it, again, you were right there in Madison maybe and didn't even know what was going on. So I think, that's one of the things that we're going to aim at, is to try to find other places to publicize the hobby and publicize our group, to try to draw in more people that are interested in the hobby. And beyond that, talking about Facebook and the pages, my kids drugged me into Facebook kicking and screaming. And, you keep in touch with family and friends, but everything else on my Facebook is all about the hobby, whether it's my local build night and stuff like that, to, hey, I'm off to SMC this fall to go to their show and see what that's all about. To your point, there are other places to do that. And it's up to us to look and find and ask those questions of particularly younger folks like you and John and some of the other younger members in the hobby. where is it that you guys are gathering? It's, there's lots of big groups on Facebook, but that's not the only place to talk about modeling. We talked about Discord groups and some of those sorts of things. I even got Tim on a conference call the other day with my daughter, who's a social media director for our local regional hospital group here. And she pointed out several things that we had no idea you could do with cross-posting between Facebook and Instagram and some of the other platforms of how that can all be integrated and content put out. So long story short, we got a lot to learn about that, and we're going to need some help.
Yeah. We're also going to be talking to a lot of the major publications. Rob and I have already got a conference call set up, or is going to be set up this next week. I was talking to Marcus about it, and he's going, dude, fill me in. I've heard a lot of rumblings about this. I want to know what you guys are doing. So whatever we can do, there are several other magazines who we've been in contact with that we'll get a chance maybe to have conversations with and articles published and get outreach that way from the shelves of the bookstore when someone picks up something and is thumbing through it on a flight or something like that. We're going to do everything that we can to create both traditional and digital connections.
The one thing I want to add is that, to answer TJ's original question, what is the strategy? It's to move towards a push environment, not a pull environment. A modeler should not have to know where to go to pull the information to figure out what they want to do. And how they can be part of something. In other words, I want to be in a mode where we're pushing information and it gets through some algorithm in front of the modeler, because the modeler is a modeler and he or she is posting on there, whether it's Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, Discord, or Pinterest. And yes, I've seen some numbers that indicate there are modelers on Pinterest. They get it because the algorithm says this is something you might be interested in. And that's the environment I want us to be in, is that we're putting it out there on all those channels so that the algorithm can then find the modeler who may not even know that he or she can pull that information. Because obviously, if they know how to pull that information, they would have already done it.
I think that's really good to hear that there's a strategy and that you guys are looking at that. I want to back up for a minute. I'm going to start with you, Tim. If you could, each of you, describe what your role within the organization is, and then maybe talk about the other members of the board and the organization and kind of what they do. And then, we'll go from there. But let's kind of start with the structure of what you guys are doing and who's doing it.
Well, for starters, I'm the president, which just means that I'm the chief executive. Essentially, everybody else does the heavy lifting, and I'm just kind of here to make sure, are we aligned with our strategic goals and the kind of efforts that we're doing and the decisions we're making? Because if we're not, then I'm going to kind of push back and say, look, we need to stay focused here. So that's my role. And then for the guys that aren't on this call, David Goldfinch, who is Australian, and most folks know him as the Podfather. He's the executive vice president, essentially my second in command. He basically is just there to help keep me focused and be the guy that my sounding board, if you will. If I need to think about something, he's a great guy to just, hey, what do you think about the guys doing X? Should I go in this direction or should I go in that direction? And then we'll have that kind of conversation in the big group and go from there. He's also our international lead, which means that long term he'll be looking at other regions around the globe that can be part of MWB formally, whether they're a national organization or otherwise. Let's see. Next is, since I'm talking about Australia, Christian O'Day is the Australian VP. So he's our formal Australian rep on the team. Darren Cook is the vice president for communications and technology, although his bandwidth's been limited recently. So I've kind of been taking on the role of comms and technology as a way to keep us moving forward. Let's see. Dana Mathis is our lead for education and outreach, specifically focused on what are we going to do to help educate modelers, provide them developmental tools, et cetera. And then I think the outreach portion we're still working on, so I don't want to talk out of turn with that. Casey Gray was recently brought on to be focused on local clubs. And then let's see, the other Bruce Worrell is our Canadian rep, and he's also leading up our exhibition and evaluation process and committee. Did I miss anything, guys?
Steve Lee.
Oh, yeah, Steve Lee. Probably the, in my opinion, the most important guy on the team, treasurer. He's the guy that makes sure that our money stays aligned. So Steve Lee has got a very big role. Sorry about that, Steve.
Rob, what about you? What's your position?
Well, I'm a carryover. I am the secretary. So my job is trying to herd the cats here and keep everybody in the same place at the same time when we need to be, and to keep all of our documentation straight, keep the minutes of the meetings, and make sure that the decisions that are made get laid down so we can all share them and be able to refer to them, and generally just kind of try to keep the structure as best I can. And I have opinions every now and then.
Stan, how about you describe what your role is?
The title is Industry Liaison. And when we're talking industry, it is manufacturers, suppliers, distributors, publishers, anyone that either creates or conducts business within the hobby. My goal is to create an environment where we're not just asking them what possibly they might be able to do to engage and help out our members, but more importantly, and I think it's probably the larger portion of what it is I've got to do, is create opportunities for us to help them and for us to engage with this rather large audience and bring their thoughts and their hopes and everything else out to them, and do what we can to facilitate what those needs might be. I don't know whether it's information. Is it forums? Is it, I would imagine there's all types of information that they would love to have that maybe they don't have an easy way to get, a broad swath of opinions and thoughts. And we're gonna create an environment where we can do that for them and show our support in as many ways as possible. So that's my goal. I want something unlike IPMS, where we go to a nationals and we've got maybe 3 international, maybe 4 international manufacturers that show up. I want something. Imagine a show where half of it is this absolutely amazing gathering of people and their creative works, and the other half of it is something akin to Shizuoka, where you've got manufacturers from all over the world that come to that place, because that's the place where they want to get in front of as many people as possible and show what's new and engage with their consumers face to face. That's the ultimate goal, at least from my end of this, for this group.
I guess a question for me, we've talked about near-term stuff. Is the ultimate goal to have a internationally recognized scale model convention? I think we've kind of hinted at it, but let's just be frank and honest. Like, is that the penultimate goal of how you bring everybody for MWB together?
I hope so. And when I say hope, it's because my expectation is that when we reach steady state, hopefully in 5 years, that is an international show is something that occurs somewhere around the globe every year. Whether the first one's in the United States or some other country, that's to be determined. But I fully expect that in the cycle, the U.S. would certainly get an international show.
I think it's fair to say, JB, that there will be a ramp-up process where we either put on or join contests that are regional in nature to get people to be exposed to the Modelers Without Borders process and the way of looking at the hobby and judging criteria and feedback interactions and all the great things and the possibilities that are out there. But, if I'm going to go swimming in the lake, I've got to walk into it first. And that's how we're going to get there, is while we work through the process of the ultimate, developing our desires for the ultimate goal, we're going to make a distinct effort to do some things on a regional level, both domestically and internationally. And I know that we've had discussions and things are mapped out for the next 2 years where those opportunities are going to pop up real quick. Again, really can't say right now exactly where and when until that stuff solidifies a little bit more, but it will be going live soon. I would imagine it's fair to say. Man, we're nearing the end of the year. This is nuts. 2025 will be here before we know it. And I think it's fair to say Modelers Without Borders will have a great presence as it relates to shows and competitions in 2025.
And Stan, I'll share that on the other podcasts, we did share that we're looking at the latter half of 2025 for the first show in the U.S. We were initially hoping that we could get the first show in Australia in the second half of 2025. That's likely going to have to push to the first half of 2026, and then Canada in 2026. And then after that, stay on a cycle, if you will, for those three countries, and then start working in additional nations if they want to be part of this, regions, if you will, and hopefully get a presence on every continent.
Part of the issue with the regional stuff is trying to engage with the calendar of events, right? There's always a show going on somewhere. And if it's going to be a regional approach to start with, we've got to find openings where we can be and live without gutting someone else's show. We never, ever would want to do that. So from a regional consideration, we've got to look at that. When it comes to a national competition at that point, I think it's fair to say if we're not stomping on someone local, you put on a national show and it becomes the center point of people's calendar, and it is what it is. But first steps first.
I would add that in addition to being the secretary, I work with Bruce and Dana on what we call the Exhibition and Evaluation Committee, where we're trying to put this stuff together in broad strokes right now, is that we want to make sure we have an event that's fun for everybody and inclusive of everybody. And so we're trying very carefully to structure the way this is done to be flexible at different levels. We'll have procedures that are applicable to a local show for any clubs that might want to associate with us, and how they should theoretically run their shows to conform to our principles. And then some larger shows that might be multi-day shows that would do the same thing. And then as it applies to a larger multi-day show, more comparable to a national convention of some sort, beyond the social and learning opportunities that we would hope to make available, the exhibition space and the juried, call it what you want, competition, evaluation, whatever, would definitely be done according to some sort of an open standard. We're working through the particulars of that now, of how that would be done. Let's just say that we'll be focusing on celebrating the individual model rather than looking for reasons to eliminate it. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a hallmark of our process.
Yeah.
That and feedback, always giving feedback to the entrant so that they know where they are and know what was done.
And that feedback always has a positive component to it.
Absolutely. Along with that, we're going to have to make sure that those people who function as judges are thoroughly trained and certified in the way it is that we're going to be doing things. And let's face it, things are a little different in what you look for in any given class of models or genre, if that's the way you want to describe it. The Gundam folks are looking for different things than the armor folks, then are looking for different things from the aircraft folks or the car guys. But we want each of those groups to help us put in place the judging criteria and the judging protocols for those individual classes. It's truly based on feedback and input from people who love to do those individual things. The other thing we'll do is we're going to judge the judges. We'll have a feedback system that looks for inconsistencies in the judging process, so that when an individual judge is maybe looking at something too harshly, or conversely is awarding something too generously, to kind of get that back into the median state of things so that we're looking at everything in the same way.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really want to get out there is that I think AMPS is a great example of, obviously it's the largest example as their national show goes, of a gold, silver, bronze judging system here in the United States. I think it's fair to say that probably internationally, SMC is held up as as the pinnacle of quality of a juried competition. I think we probably all agree on that. And their judging criteria is slick and allows you to go through and make judgments and in support of their software, get through that process really quickly and accurately. Another thing that SMC has going for it is the best judges in the world, of which we have a couple here on the phone call. I think obviously the pre-qualification caliber of the judges is a huge thing. And Modelers Without Borders is dead set against the cattle call. We are about training up groups of judges and giving them the information and the insight that they need to give proper discernment and encouragement to each of the models. But I think another thing that we're working hard to do, and that Dana is it's fair to say Dana's spearheading a lot of that, is pick the best from all these other groups that are doing gold, silver, bronze type of juror exhibitions. Ours will be a marrying of as many positive things as possible. Again, this is like, it's been working on for over a year. So this is no small process. These guys are deep in the weeds in this. And when it rolls out, I think it's going to be extremely comprehensive and really fun to see.
Yeah, Dana and I are both in the process of reworking the judging process for our local show, Model Fiesta, in San Antonio. It's this July, and the decision was made just a month or so ago to pull the trigger on that for a lot of reasons. And so in parallel to working through all this for MWB and the procedures we're going through there, we're doing it at the local level too. And it's nice to be able to have the luxury of cherry picking the best pieces and parts from all of these different judging protocols around the world. We had a conversation with you, Scott, not too long ago, looking for some feedback on Rocky Mountain Hobby Expo and how your judging experiences went there, and some of what were the good things, what were the other things that didn't go so well, so that we can learn from that and come up with a system that truly picks the best of all of these different systems and tries to incorporate it into one system that is fair, consistent, and transparent in how it works.
Yeah, no, that was a great conversation that we had, Rob, and that's a great approach. You know, we took a similar approach on a show basis, and so I see that being very successful for you.
I'm gonna use Jensen's question because he was indisposed for this evening, and his question to the three of you was, and this stems from I think a couple of comments that he saw on Facebook, that the board is heavily represented by the United States. I mean, obviously we're the greatest nation on the planet, so kind of makes sense. That's why we're a superpower.
Then there's that.
and Canada, and then, Australia. But do you see an expansion to gain representation from mainland Europe, Asia, or anywhere else?
Already in the works. Yeah. Already in the works.
We've got to figure out the how. And part of that effort is if you're going to have some of the same challenges that we've had since we started with in Canada and Australia because of Commonwealth laws, that to try and be a charitable organization, there's some additional hurdles you have to get over that here in the United States we don't have because we tend to be we embrace charitable organizations quite readily, and not every country in the world does. So that's something that we have to figure out. And is that a stumbling block? No, that just, as they go through their legal process, they may have to take a little longer before they can do the kind of things that they want to do as part of MWB.
But that said, TJ, that's where we're going. Yeah. I mean, there's legal things we'll have to get worked through, but the goal and the intention is to, in fact, have a European contingent, have an Asian contingent. I think at that point, to be honest with you, we'd be the only group globally that is doing something like that. So, it's you go as far as you can when you first roll it out and introduce yourself, and you keep adding these components as it becomes practically and legally able to do it. Yeah,
you gotta overcome several things in that. The cultural differences play a big part in things, and honestly, the language barrier is something that you have to address and overcome. You got to find folks that are fluent in at least two languages between their home country and the U.S. to translate things like that. And even those who speak English sometimes. I know when I listen to the Posse podcast, when Jensen comes on, I have to slow it down from 1.5 back to 1 so I can understand what he's saying. And forget it if somebody from Scotland comes on.
Yeah, forget that. Or, I mean, just Northern England is tough enough. I would offer that if we find that we need to have somebody on our board that can speak a second language, or if Tim has to learn a second language, I got to say Tim will learn the second language. I would prefer it to be French. Just because I like that language. I think it's beautiful. Followed by Italian and then Spanish.
Well, there you go.
Tim's a fan of love languages, confirmed.
Yes.
You didn't see this conversation going that way, did you?
And well, those of us in the initial leadership here are going to be making the effort to spread the word here throughout the next year or so too. I know Stan and I are going to the show in Little Rock in Arkansas here in a few weeks. And, we're going to try to get
language.
It is another language. It's another world altogether. I grew up there. I can say that.
Yep.
We'll have a table there and try to have some brochures and things to hand out to talk to people about the organization. And of course, some of us are going to SMC here this fall, and we'll try to have a presence there and talk to anybody that wants to learn about us. When Model Fiesta comes up in San Antonio or the Braunfels actually in January, we have a large contingent of folks that come up from Mexico and even a few that come up from South America. So again, we'll be spreading the word to those guys about how they can get involved and help us out worldwide. Again, we want this to be a truly global fellowship of people that love the hobby. And so it doesn't matter if you're in Chile or in Pakistan or Uzbekistan, anywhere in the world. If you like to model, you're one of us.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rob. That was kind of one of my next questions. So we've kind of talked about a more encompassing social media and social media adjacent strategy to look at new members, but let's talk maybe to core modeler. Let's talk about average Joe modeler in Iowa or wherever. How can they engage with Modelers Without Borders?
I guess I'll take that one. There's two different ways they can do it right now. Ultimately, I want it to be on other channels until we get those channels up and running. Facebook, we've got a Facebook group, Modelers Without Borders, easy to find. Just remember to spell modelers with 2 L's. That's the international spelling. And then if you want to go to our website, modelers.org, again with 2 L's, you can, in the same form that you can sign up to be a subscriber, you can also leave a message. I read those. They come to my inbox and I read every single one of them. And if the modeler asks a question, I immediately respond. I've had a number of those already and even started a couple of conversations, and I'll be glad to do that.
Those channels will grow soon, Scott. Yes,
as fast as I can grow them. And frankly, I know you guys are a little bit better with social media than I am. I'm be glad to listen to, if you know somebody that can help me out, I'll be glad to talk to them.
But I think it's something that people are dying for. They're just really excited to hear about the heart that's behind this. I mean, in the last week, we've increased our membership by 25%. Pretty decent growth for a week. Now, I grant you there's a long way to go, but I think there's a lot of people out there that want to get engaged, and that's how we're going to do it.
And with that engagement, do you foresee local MWB clubs popping up? More of a physical presence? Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's part of the plan.
Not? Right now, let's face it, right now, I bet you there are dozens and dozens and dozens, let's go, at least dozens and dozens of clubs that are called IPMS that have switched to gold, silver, bronze, embrace, the model genres that maybe are otherwise neglected, at least on a national level, from focus, have all different levels of modelers in there, from the casual guy who's a friend of a friend who gets invited for the first time, to the local hero who is the guy that everyone looks up to because he builds X. So there's no reason why that could not be a MWB club versus an IPMS club. The current club has nothing really to do with IPMS. if they were to put on a show, the only benefit they have of being an IPMS chapter is to glean from their insurance coverage as it relates to an event. My assumption is eventually we'd like to be able to go there and provide the same thing, but there's no reason we can't have MWB chapters or NWB clubs popping up right and left or switching over.
Yeah, I've already had 3 clubs reach out, and in all 3 cases, the answer is until we get that process figured out, we'll publish that eventually, sooner rather than later. How does a local club affiliate with MWB?
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
right?
We'll figure it out. We will.
We're figuring it out, and we'll get it out there.
That's why Casey is on the team.
Right. And I think we also need to make it clear that we're not trying to compete or to put it bluntly, we're not trying to steal people and steal clubs from IPMS. There isn't any reason that people and clubs can't coexist between the 2 organizations. It's 2 different styles. It's 2 different ways of doing things. We're simply providing an alternative. We're not saying you got to be one or the other. There isn't any reason you can't be both.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, there's room for, I think, Rob, you mentioned earlier when you were kind of going over maybe some of the benchmarking points that you're passionate about that maybe IPMS isn't checking boxes. That doesn't mean that there's other people that aren't passionate about, maybe that direction and that type of modeling. So it's good to have choice, right?
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that, and if we had Casey, he could speak more to this, but IPMS pretty much allows their local clubs to do their own thing, so to speak. It's a fairly loose affiliation, and of course the tangible benefit is insurance for the show when you have an event. But IPMS doesn't reach down to the individual club and say this is how you have to run things. As Stan pointed out, there's a lot of IPMS clubs that are running open system judging and gold, silver, bronze award formats right now, and IPMS doesn't come down on that, say you can't do that. I think that as long as clubs, if they want to operate under the MWB banner and be an affiliate and advertise their show as an MWB affiliated show, as long as you adhere to our level 1 club principles and objectives in running a contest or an exhibition, depending on how that turns out, that's all we're going to ask is that you adhere to the operating principles and go from there. We're not going to tell you got to have a president, vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, and all the structural things that go along with it. It's an ideology thing more than anything else.
Well, as we start to wrap up, Tim, I want to start with you. So first of all, let's review one more time for the listeners out there. If somebody's looking at Modelers Without Borders and they want to engage and learn more, how do they do that?
If they go to the Facebook page, Modelers Without Borders, they can, in the group, they can actually drop us a comment and ask a question right there. I'll answer them. And if not me, it'll be one of the other members of the board because we're all on there. Or they can go to the website and they can use the subscribe form. And if they fill that out, of course, they'll automatically be subscribed. But there's a box there where they can leave a message and ask questions if they want. And I'll put it out there. My address is president@modelers.org, 2 L's. And you can always send me an email and ask a question there. I'll get it to the right guy.
And then Stan, maybe just kind of wrap up the innovation side of the house. What is MWB going to bring to modelers as far as improvement and innovations that you think modelers should be excited about?
I think as we go through the process, you're going to find an environment where you're exposed to more types of modeling, a broader range of opportunities to engage with people that not only make those models, but develop the techniques and put things out there that can really help a person, as Tim says, who builds a small version of something big, grow and become even more passionate about their hobby. As our depth of membership grows, as our range of platforms grow, as our ability to reach out in person into the community with social engagements and shows grow. Every single one of those, we're going to look for opportunities, and we already have discussed what those opportunities might be to create just an opportunity, a larger chance for everyone locally and on a larger scale digitally engage. That's what we're doing, and day by day we're going through that process. So.
And then, Rob, to the individual modelers and, the heart of those modelers and the passion that you spoke about earlier, what's MWB going to bring as a value prop to the individual modelers that maybe they're not getting from other organizations?
Good question, Scott. I'm going to say that MWB is going to be doing all we can to provide a positive and engaging environment that helps the individual modeler at any level of development to do several things. Number one, to increase and get as much enjoyment out of the hobby as you can, both on a social level and on a personal level, to allow them to become as accomplished within the hobby as their interests and desire to excel allows them to. There's a lot of different levels of involvement in this hobby for people. We want to provide an environment that allows individuals to establish new and grow existing relationships with other modelers, not just in their local environment or regional area of the country they're in, but with other modelers from around the world. With the internet, you've got the ability to talk to people all over the world that enjoy and do the same kinds of things that you like to do. And there's no reason we can't put those people together. And finally, I think we want to grow this organization to meet the needs and the expectations of our associates and people who become members of the organization, to make the hobby everything that it can be for you and enjoy it as much as you can.
Excellent. TJ, JB, any final questions?
No, I'd just like to thank you gents. We've been close friends for a long time, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us about this important issue, or I should say important topic for that matter. And I look forward to learning more, and I certainly look forward to seeing Rob and Stan in Arkansas in just a little bit over a month. And then, Tim, I hope we connect at some point. It's been too long, and the first drink is on me.
There you go.
I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Careful, he has a hollow leg.
I was in the Navy. I understand. I've done my homework. So
yeah, but I can't keep.
Where's the sponge?
He likes a good Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
And I'll just echo thanks for your time. And I know that a lot of people are wondering about this movement. Like you said, we've seen your Facebook presence grow, and lots of new people are jumping aboard and seem to be really connecting with the organization. So best of luck. You guys are all terrific people, and I know you guys will do a great job with this.
Thanks, Blaine. We appreciate you in this process.
We're looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Yep. All of you guys. Thanks for giving us time.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.